This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Prime. In association with Micromax. Nothing like anything.
The world's first production hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, the Mirai, is on CNB this week. And an India exclusive on the Rolls-Royce Series II Ghost. Hi folks, this is CNB. I'm Siddharth Vinayak Patnankar. Thanks for joining us. We've got two very different cars that are coming your way, as you've seen already, and we've also got a Suzuki Gixxer here. All the products dressed in blue today. I'll tell you where the bike is here in a bit, but let's start off with the car that's also a little bit green. The world's first production fuel cell vehicle comes to us from Toyota. It's the Mirai. It's not coming to India anytime soon, but it could be the next revolution, just like the Prius was.
Mirai means future in Japanese, and so it truly fits Toyota's claim that the future is here. The Mirai is Toyota's first mass production hydrogen power fuel cell car, and it comes after 20 years and millions of dollars being invested in research and development by the Japanese car maker. So could this be the next Prius?
Now the Mirai does have a fairly interesting and futuristic kind of design. Some of it might look a little awkward and weird at front, but you know, the overall shape is very unique, and that's what Toyota really wants to highlight with the design. Bring in that element of being different. This is a fuel cell technology, and the design is incorporated so that as much air gets in from every element of the design. What strikes you from the front the most are these big grills, fairly big grills on either side of the bumper. The idea is to let in the air streamline well into the fuel cells and get in as much air to generate that much more power. Also, the overall shape is kind of a water drop design, in line with what Toyota wants to talk about with the fuel cell technologies.
So the Mirai design is not for everyone, especially with its slightly awkward proportions, but the interior will give you something to smile about. It looks more futuristic than the Prius, with a couple of black touchscreen panels below the curved dashboard. On the top center of the dash there's a speedometer, gear indicator and driving details of the powertrain. Below this is a navigation and infotainment screen carried forward from the Prius. Impressive quality of the cabin materials and the 8-way adjustable seats make this fairly appealing. Decent headroom up front, but in the rear the headroom takes a hit with the placement of the hydrogen tanks below the floor. Boot space is sufficient at 371 litres.
Now before we drive the Mirai, we thought we'll give you guys a short glimpse of what lies under the hood, because that's the real exciting part, isn't it? And in terms of overall layout, it looks fairly simple, but remember, hydrogen is quite a complicated technology to kind of generate power out of. But the layout is fairly simple under the hood. You got the two big hydrogen tanks at the back where the refueling happens, and you got that power generating here. You can see the blue and the orange strips that generates power all the way to the power control unit as well as the motor. You've got the fuel cell boost converter right in the middle, which ensures that the power from the hydrogen tanks gets delivered to the motor as well as the power control unit in the middle.
So how exactly does all this work together? The gas goes through a hydrogen fuel cell stack that mixes oxygen with the hydrogen. This reaction generates electricity to charge the onboard battery. The car is powered by the 114 kilowatt fuel cell stack along with a 113 kilowatt electric motor on board. The combination of hydrogen and oxygen creates pure water. which is dumped while driving or when parked through the tailpipe. Now Toyota claims that Mirai gives a range of 650 kilometers with the 2 hydrogen tanks under its Japanese test cycle, but the real-world driving distance could be just about 550 kilometers. And here's the other big surprise. Unlike electric vehicles which take time to charge, refilling the tank of the Mirai with hydrogen will take less than 5 minutes. Currently only 10 hydrogen stations exist in Japan, with a plan to set up another 100 by the end of 2015. Toyota has looked to address concerns of the Mirai safety by ensuring the hydrogen and the tanks are crash safe and can handle high-speed accidents too, with no fear of explosion or fire. The Mirai is also equipped with sensors to provide warnings and shut off the tank's main stop valves in case of a leak.
We're not doing cruising speed, so we really need to test that out, how responsive it is at higher speeds, but the engine does feel fairly powerful. Also, you do have the option of getting into power mode, which releases more power hydrogen into the fuel cells, which gets into the electric motor, so you can have a little fun with the Mirai.
The car is a bit like the Prius to drive, but unlike the Prius, it remains completely silent, since there's no gasoline engine at play here at all. The car does promise a punch with its 335 Nm of torque and over 150 horses. The reason why the drive is very similar to the Prius is because in an attempt to keep the costs down, the Mirai does borrow quite a bit from the electric powertrain of the Prius. But this is a heavier car, at about 1850 kilos, and you feel it when you push the car around corners. The steering and the braking impressed in the little time we got to drive the Mirai. On the flat stretch we drove, the suspension did feel a bit stiff, which does contribute to a better handling feel than the Prius though. Toyota has officially launched the Mirai in Japan, and it will go to the US and select European markets by the second half of 2015. Priced at around $57,500 or approximately 35 lakh rupees, the price of the Mirai could get lower, with select markets offering government incentives. Challenges like lack of hydrogen stations will be the biggest hurdle, so Toyota is ensuring that the Mirai launches in a phased manner. But for now, we're happy to show you this slice of the future, right here on CNB.
The NDTV Current Bike Awards are in their 10th edition. We're very proud of that fact, and we're also very proud, as always, of all our nominees. Now, the Suzuki Gixxer is one of the strongest contenders this year and is also a nominee for the CNB Viewers Choice Two-Wheeler of the Year, and that's why it's on the show today. We are going to run you through all the nominees now. There are 5 scooters, 4 motorcycles, 7 cars, and yes, you could own one of those. So go ahead, take a look at the options and figure out how you can put your vote in as well. We are going to take a very short break. See you on the other side of that.
Mobile presents NDTV Current Bike Awards 2015 in its 10th edition is giving you a chance to own your favorite bike. All you have to do is vote for the CNB Viewers Choice Two-Wheeler of the Year. CNB 1, Bajaj Discover 150F. CNB 2, Hero Splendor iSmart. CNB 3, Honda Activa 125. CNB 4, Mahindra Gusto. CNB 5, Suzuki Gixxer. CNB 6, Suzuki Let's. CNB 7, TVS Scooty Zest. CNB 8, TVS Star City Plus. CNB 9, Vespa S. To vote, SMS CNB a space and your option to 56388 or log on to ndtv.com/CNB Awards. Win with CNB. Vote for the CNB Viewers Choice Car of the Year. CNB 10, Datsun Go. CNB 11, Fiat Aventura. CNB 12, Honda City. CNB 13, Honda Mobilio. CNB 14, Hyundai i20. CNB 15, Maruti Suzuki Ciaz. CNB 16, Tata Zest. To vote, SMS CNB a space and your option to 56388 or log on to ndtv.com/CNB Awards. Win with CNB.
Welcome back to CNB. Now let's go completely high-end with Rolls-Royce. The Series 2 version of the Ghost was released just a few months ago, and CNB was the only one invited to test the new car. Here's our exclusive review.
This is the car that's been the volumes driver for Rolls-Royce, and yes, that's a relative term for this brand. The Ghost was first launched in 2009 and so was due for an update. Now in its Series 2 avatar, the car hopes to take the already popular model even further.
With premium brands, when it comes to a facelift or a mid-cycle makeover, the idea is always to stay subtle because you don't want to take away too strongly from that brand and what it means. In the case of Rolls-Royce, that's perhaps even more severe. And so, yes, there was a lot of feedback taken from existing customers, says the company. So the idea was to keep the Ghost as the Ghost, and so, which is why you have very subtle sort of changes that have been carried out. The bigger focus was to try and make the front look a little wider, a little bit more ready for performance, and so a lot of the graphical elements have been moved outwards a little bit. Can't really tell when you look at it, looks like the Ghost, but if we had the old car standing next to it, perhaps you'll be able to tell the differences. The other difference there, in fact, is the fact that the Parthenon grille and the mascot, the Spirit of Ecstasy, have both moved up 13 millimeters. Not a whole lot, but it does give you a little bit of a heightened sense of the hood over here, to imply again the kind of power that resides under it. There is a wake or a vapor trail that's been put in here into the metal just behind the Spirit of Ecstasy. It's nice, it implies power and sort of strength again. And the actual figure here has also, the figurine has been moved just about 7 degrees to the front. It's sort of tilting forward, again to imply performance.
The car looks just as grand and every bit a Rolls-Royce. The one with me is draped in the stunning Salamanca blue with a contrasting metal hood. Yes, very much how I would order mine. Now this is also the extended wheelbase version, which means that it's a bit more relevant to our market. But really, most of you don't care for that detail, do you?
The big focus technically though was the work that's been put into making this new daytime running light signature a reality. If you see, there's no brakes in this LED, it's completely continuous. Don't see that on any other car, and it's equally bright all around. A lot of focus, a lot of work went into keeping that and making that a reality really. I like it. It does give the car a very distinct identity when you see it coming up from the rear. We've had some other cars with us on the drive today, and so I've been noticing that. There's a lot of muscle here in this particular flank as well on the fender, again to imply the power that the car carries. The new metal is really just from this point to the front. All of that, all the panels, the fenders, the bumpers, all of that is new. Even down here you can see that the bumper has been given a little bit of a redesign, and there's a little chrome element in there as well. The alloy pattern is new, and on this particular car you can see that there's a little complementary blue in there.
When you talk Rolls-Royce, the story is seldom about the performance, as that's a given, at least in terms of power and a superb ride. But on the Ghost Series 2, there are some neat technical upgrades worth getting into.
Before the Wraith came along last year, the Ghost was the individual or driver's car in the Rolls-Royce portfolio, right? And so all the learnings from the Wraith, the engineers say, have gone back into the Series 2. Now, is it as sporty or as dynamic as the Wraith? Of course not. They want to keep a separation between this car and that too. But having said that, you do have the option of something called the dynamic pack now that you can get on this car. What that does is just tightens things up a little bit in terms of throttle response, suspension settings, and also the way the transmission reacts. And yeah, you get a little bit of a sportier drive, a thicker steering wheel, and some chrome-tipped exhausts at the back. That's the only way to tell physically that it is a car with the dynamic pack. And speaking of that transmission, I love the 8-speed gearbox, always have. Now they've got something called satellite-aided transmissions. What it does is that The GPS hooks up with the gearbox and the car anticipates what's coming up on the road, and the gears change accordingly, so you get the optimal performance, and the car already knows what you're going to need before you know it.
How neat is that, right? Yet another autonomous driving feature that works in the background. The kind I like. It's non-intrusive and you don't feel the car dropping a gear either. It's very smooth. And smooth is the operative word when you talk of the initial pickup, the overall power delivery, or even the ample torque that's available near instantly. The gearbox has been very well married to the V12 beast. The car is fast too and doesn't feel like it's over 5.5 meters long. That's creditable. I remember thinking the same with the original Ghost too, but today I have the longer wheelbase car, don't forget. The wheelbase is longer by 170 millimeters, in case you're wondering.
The coach doors, that's quintessentially Rolls-Royce, so of course you expect that, and the Ghost always had them. This one is the long wheelbase, so you can see that there is lots and lots of leg room for me. And this car's interior has been finished off in a nice light palette. There's a cream sort of a leather finish. It is really beautifully, impeccably done. So this particular one has also got some really nice wood inserts. The veneer used is really beautiful. Also a little bit of dull metal that's been used, and it all kind of fits together quite nicely. A thick pile shag carpet down here is also quite nicely done, and in fact there are some new options when it comes to some of these wooden veneer options. Now the bespoke line from Rolls-Royce, that's where you can customize your car and make it look different to everybody else's. 86% of Ghost buyers so far since 2009 have actually gone with bespoke features. It's a pretty high percentage. Rolls-Royce expects that going forward with the Series 2, that number is going to get even higher. And besides all those different options now for the interior trim, the other big change on the new Series 2, the seats, they've been completely reworked. In fact, the old seats have been thrown out, and this is a completely new structure, different kind of form and shape, and even the way the foam has been put in, the kind of support you get, all of that is absolutely new. In the front, by the way, the seats actually have the option of a little more cushioning along the sides, because now the car has a few more slightly powerful elements in its drive, and so a little sportier sort of a seat. That's what's been added in.
And so it's a substantial upgrade, and yet one that timelessly merges in with the Rolls-Royce Enigma. The Series 2 has already been launched in India. Prices start at just 4.5 crore rupees.
That's a wrap here on CNB this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. My AQ question for the week is based on the Rolls-Royce Ghost. All I simply want to know is, what car from that model lineup shares its platform with the Ghost? What Rolls-Royce model shares its platform with the Ghost? Remember to tweet me at Sid Partnkar and use the AQ hashtag if you want to win some of our Mahindra AQ goodies. On that note, it is goodbye. Please wear your helmets if you're on a two-wheeler. Please wear your seat belts. Thank you.